new music today. All right, we're up and rolling. Hello, hello. Welcome to Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott. I'm Scott. Hi, Brianna. How you doing today?
Hey Scott, I am great. I have so much energy. I'm so excited.
Good.
And I'll tell
Good,
you
good,
why.
good.
I don't know if I should be in the ways that I am because I found myself at 4 in the morning up and looking at the charts on
Oh,
my phone.
really?
And I haven't done
Little
that for
little
a really long
Bitcoin,
time.
little Bitcoin excitement there.
Yeah. I
Look
have to
at
admit, I'm
you.
gonna confess that I was, and I was so excited. And it's really hard to suppress that voice that's just like on ramp the fiat. Like I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
On ramp the
But
fiat.
I'm
Love it.
gonna hold tight a little bit. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I got a cold again. This winter weather, I'm not used to all this coldness. So I had COVID and now I've got a cold again. And I mean, I still have energy and can move and stuff. It's not like COVID at all, but yeah. So it's just, and then I'm going to give it to the rest of my family. So I don't know. I mean, do you get colds like all the time because of the cold weather here?
Yeah, I have a cold right now as well. I'm drinking my
Okay.
mud water. That helps. But
Oh,
no, I
good.
have kids in school. So if we get 2 weeks in
Yeah.
between sicknesses, that's usually what we get, 2 weeks.
That's true.
And yeah, so yeah, get them all the time, year
Just
round.
par for the course. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Kansas City wasn't, the most temperate weather at all, but I just seem to not get colds there. And I've had two. Of course, I'm in a new environment. Maybe that is part of it. I don't know. Anyways, other than that, I'm good. But yeah, the other thing, I've been obsessed with this Chinese balloon over Montana, and this Chinese spy balloon. And so here's all these pictures of this. But yeah, it was a big news here in Montana. It's like, yeah, we got the Chinese spying on us. Although it was funny, I read that they said it was just a weather balloon, weather data collecting or whatever. But this is the ironic thing. I guess the ambassador who was going to go to China canceled it. U.S. ambassador canceled it because of this damn balloon. So it's like I don't know. Maybe there's a lot more to it. It's like I just thought it was funny at first, but now I'm like, he's canceling his trip because of this balloon. Wow.
Yeah, I was waiting to see what was going to come from it, because if it was, yeah, I just am always like, this is going to be the start of something. First off, it was kind of funny. It's over Montana. of all places. I did see, though, I thought it was kind of strange because when I was driving, and I'm not far from you, I'm not far from Montana, and I don't know where the balloon is now, but
Mm.
there were some fighter jets
Oh,
yesterday, and they were all three in a row, and they were like really close together, and I was like, huh, I wonder if they're going after the balloon. Like, could it be
going
that
after the balloon. Well,
somewhere?
yeah, well, it was funny because the only thing I could remember for some reason, because it brought up this discussion, and I was thinking, yeah, I mean, what they're going to invade Montana, but you remember that old movie? It was before your time called Wolverines. Do you ever remember it? No, I think it was back in the '80s, but it was this movie that the Russians invaded America, but they came into like either Montana or Idaho or whatever. That was their first place to land, and there was this football team that was their mascot was the high school was the Wolverines, right? And so they were camping or something up in the woods at the time of this, and they realized this, and so these high school students were basically taking out all these Russian tanks and troops, whatever, and they would go Wolverines. I'm just thinking, oh my God, we're gonna have,
Happen. I would not be surprised if anything like that happened these
yeah,
days, to be completely
I
honest.
know. Well, I don't know how that relates to crypto, but thought it was fun and timely in the news. But yeah, so let's talk about some crypto. We're gonna try something a little bit different today. We're gonna try to do a few more, maybe a little bit shorter commentary or shorter on it, and hit a few more if we can. If not, we'll just ramble on like we usually do. But let me cue you up here. La 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 la. Where are you? There you go.
Okay,
All
let me know
right.
when you see
Goldman
the screen.
Sachs. I see it. Go for it.
Yes, yes. So this was exciting. There was a report that was released just a couple of days ago on the best performing assets of the year this far. And so, and like I said, this was Goldman Sachs who did this. And they were comparing gold, real estate, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. I'll go to the chart down here so we can take a look.
Okay.
And the winner is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Da-da-da.
Bitcoin, yes. At the time of writing, it was at 39% above where it started at the beginning of 2023. When I looked today, it was right about 42%, which is pretty exciting, not gonna lie. So yeah, we have it ranked, and I'm not sure as I was reading this, I get lost, but we have, I mean, it is significantly higher at a number
Mm-hmm.
27, whatever that means.
Hmm.
Um, Below it being gold, real estate, treasury, NASDAQ, like I pointed out before, energy. We have some that are negatives down here when it comes to healthcare.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
then
Look
over
at the
here,
S&P 500. I mean, that's that and Nasdaq. You look at that, and it's like they compare Bitcoin to Nasdaq a lot. But yeah,
right.
what were you going to point out?
Yeah, and look at that. That's at three, whatever this is indicating. I'm not sure, but I mean, that is like significantly higher. Super exciting. And then I'm not sure, and maybe the risk adjusted return as somebody who's not well
The
versed
Sharp
in finance.
ratio. No, that's getting into the weeds a little bit. Yeah, the Sharp. I've heard of that. I don't know exactly the
Mhm.
detail of that, but I mean, what's cool about that? I mean, we can speculate that the higher the risk, there's a factor that fits in there, and it's still like it may be a penalty. The riskier that it is, and it's still the number one. And it's been the investment of the decade. I think Time Magazine came out with that or whatever last year, and But this is what's so interesting about it because we're always sort of fighting this battle with people that aren't into crypto about the negative views of this and how risky it is and how you shouldn't be touching it in a bear market or whatever. And yet, I mean, look at this, and it still doesn't seem to sway anybody because I guess of the volatility and does this has nothing to do with the volatility. This is at the end of the day, over the long run, what was the best asset? Was the highest asset, and it's Bitcoin by far. And this is one of those takeaways that anybody that's in crypto right now, and we should be talking about this. This should always be in our arsenal. That hey, look, this is the best investment that you can have over the long term. And I was always a big, like I said, I didn't enjoy finance and investment kind of stuff before. And so for me, in my IRA and my 401k and stuff, I just basically had index funds. So I just knew enough to know that the S&P 500 or in the stock market over 30 years, 50 years, 100 years or whatever, it's always gone up. There'll be up years and down years. So if you don't want to look at stuff or worry about stuff too much, you put it into a stock index fund. At least that's the way it was up until this year. Was I think the first year that I think over the whole year period that the stock indexes were down way below Bitcoin. Maybe not for the year, but on par for the year. And then you just look at this. So this is just really good news. It's a really good something that we should just kind of bring out like every few months. Just throw this chart up.
Yeah, I agree. I like how you said it should be in the arsenal because that's exactly what I thought too. It's
Right.
just one of those things that it's all you need to kind of show the naysayer who hasn't looked in yet, and hopefully that will give a little bit of intrigue for that person to look into it and see a little bit beyond what they see in the headlines. So I agree. And
Yep.
then I just want to ask you a quick question before we move
Mhm.
on, Scott. So last week you brought forth an article saying that the bottom was in. Are you believing that at this point a week later? Do you think we've hit the bottom or do you think we're still to see the bottom here coming up?
Oh, good question. Yeah, no, I'm still in. I'm still all in. I think. I mean, who's to say if it won't go, come down a bit like it did, and but I think that we've already seen the bottom, and it's just interesting. It'll be interesting because I think the other article. I don't think if I cut this article out, but I was thinking about doing this, but I'll comment on it now. And that is again the Fed numbers that came out yesterday, right? And I think no matter what, if you're in Bitcoin or stocks or bonds or whatever, this is something to pay attention to. Now, as you and I have discussed before, did I care about what the Fed was talking about? Did I even know what day it was going to come out or anything? No, I didn't care or pay attention to it or anything. But now, as an investor and in the crypto market primarily, all the markets go up and down based on the Fed and these kind of economic forecasts and so on. So I do pay attention to it. So I just think it's so interesting. And I was trying to talk to my mom about this and how the markets are so psychological. Really, they're just so psychological, and that the markets are always pricing in the future, or they're always looking to the future, right? And so it's so funny when the Fed comes out and they raise interest rates again, and yet the market kind of rallied because they're like, well, yeah, they raised them, but not as much as they could have, and their languaging seems a little bit softer. And oh, even though today, right now, we still have high interest rates and the economy may not be so good, hey, let's invest, let's shoot it up because we think that in a month from now things are going to be good. So the market is always looking forward, which is it's always struck me as sort of odd. I get it, but it's so feeble that way, right? I mean, you can have terrible news, and if there's just a hint things might be good, there, the market will go up. And so, so that happened, and I think the market's up and down, but Bitcoin, is came down a little bit, but it's still, I don't even know what it is today. Is it still 23, 24, maybe not around 23, I think,
Yeah.
and or even 22, but it touched into that 24 range. Did we talk about this before on this show about the resistance at 25? I don't know if we talked about that.
I don't believe we have.
25 is a big resistance line. So, looking, like you said, you were looking at the charts last night. And I kind of go in and out of kind of looking at charts and kind of that whole technical analysis stuff where I pay attention to it sometimes and don't. And like you, I'm kind of looking at the charts a little bit more. But in watching some different videos and so on, 25,000 is this resistance line that, if you look over the long term of year over years, or certainly last year, there's, at 25, there's this resistance. If it hits 25, a lot of times it will go down and it won't go above that 25,000. But if it does, and this is the cool thing I love about chart reading and technical analysis, and this is a really basic analysis of this or comment, but if it hits those resistance lines and then goes above, it breaks through resistance, as they call it, then it's bound to shoot up. And so that's what I'm looking at is that, as it tests this 25, If it goes down, that's kind of normal, kind of expected. But if it breaks through, watch out. It could zoom to 50
Mhm.
or whatever. Same thing with let's see, resistance support line. So what I don't even haven't looked, but let's say 15 might be a support line, right? That if it goes below 15, and that was the worry in some of those days, is if it gets some of these support lines and breaks through there, then it could significantly go down. It's just kind of the psychology of how markets work. When you hit these resistance and support lines, when they bust through, they zoom, and that's a lot because there's shorts and stop losses that are automatically in there. And when they hit these lines, like a lot of people will put stop losses or buys at these resistance levels, right? And so you've got hundreds and thousands and millions of pre-programmed in buys and sells that when they hit these psychological lines, boom, they take off because they're automatic, right? And
Mhm.
so some people say, like instead of they never really put in their stop losses or their buys at these numbers, they put them a little bit ahead or before, like 25,100 or something like that. So they're not caught in those
Mhm.
automatic buys and sells. So yeah, just another bit
Mhm.
of ramble, but it's fascinating when we're talking about coin investing like this, which
Yeah.
I always say that I'm, really bullish on DeFi and spend a lot of my time doing that. But, I'm just like everybody else in this industry too. It's like I'm looking at the charts now a little bit more than I did before, and DeFi is
Yeah.
looking a little bit, more boring than it did, because now this stuff's looking exciting. So it's all
Yeah.
good. It's all good.
Totally. Yep. I'm already like, I might just be a day trader for just a few weeks, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah. You just forget those feelings until they resurface, once we start hitting these new levels, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like I haven't felt this way in a while. I forgot about this feeling.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and I'll also mention too that one of the things that I think is so important to do in the bear markets is to really do your studying, do your research, do your testing. Because when the markets are high and things are going crazy, things go fast and you get the FOMO and you might make decisions that are, rash. But also you may not fully like you may want to make this trade now that you haven't done, but it may be complex, especially in the DeFi world where there's two or three different trades going on. And so if you don't really know how to do that really well, then it might be dangerous when the market's going up. So I guess what I say is that I've been really just putting small amounts of money into these DeFi protocols and really learning and getting really used to making the movements and the transactions. Because in DeFi, a lot of in yield farming for sure, you're moving stuff around a lot and you're making transactions all day long. Not all day long, but like usually I look at it once a week. And on the days that I'm kind of in there moving things around, I may do 10 transactions, right? And every single one of them could be perilous if I don't
Mhm.
make sure that I do them right. So yeah, so we're going to have bear markets and bull markets, and so in the bear markets, practice, test, do stuff that you haven't done before. So,
Absolutely.
anyways,
Yeah. It's a way, and then I'll just lead or end with this comment that I've been doing the same thing when it comes to trading because I'm trying to train myself, and not just for trading, but if I have anything on the central exchange, which I have just a tiny bit right now, because I'm practicing. What I'm
yeah,
practicing is taking gains, and I have my investment portfolio that's sitting in self custody for the most part, some in my MetaMask, and that's kind of just sitting there for the long term. But then for those shorter term, I'm practicing taking some gains because otherwise,
yeah,
I really don't want to go through a whole nother bull run and miss out on that. So
yeah,
I'm getting into the routine of just practicing taking a little bit
yeah,
with a little bit. Uh, and just kind of working on the psychology of all of it. So, yeah, well said. Always practice in the bear markets. Okay, so
yeah,
now I'll move on to my next one. This is kind of switching direction. This one's on AI, and let's see, and then we'll move over to what you got, Scott.
okay,
So I am not the reason why I chose this, and this was actually shared, I believe, by Carol in our Kings course. So thank you, Carol,
yeah,
if you're watching or if you see this, thank you. And I was drawn to it because Polygon. I am invested in Polygon. It's my third biggest investment. I see a lot of potential there. And the other reason I brought this forward is because all I see is your guys' enthusiasm in our community, Scott, on AI, and I just haven't. I'm trying to keep an open mind,
Hmm.
and I am really resisting that. And I haven't dove in, so I'm kind of like slowly trying to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd ease in with some Polygon.
Good.
Um,
Yep.
and so I will look at this in a second. This is a some kind of use cases for this, but basically, what's happening is they our Polygon is teaming up with Alithia. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. AI to bring the power of generative AI to character non fungible tokens. So this is kind of a next level
Cool.
for NFTs as well. And I won't go into all of this, but basically, you are the creator of a character. You create the personality by prompts, and
Nice.
you give it its name, habits, this and that, as it states. And not only that, you are able to take ownership. So that's kind of the next level as well. So it's making sure that we can take ownership over the AI character through NFTs. And then what they're doing, what Sandeep Nilwal, he's the co-founder of Polygon, he has a tokenized digital twin. And what their goal with this digital twin, at least where they see this right now, is to educate millions of users on benefits of utilizing Polygon's blockchain ecosystem and share wisdom of his journey as an entrepreneur. So users can interact with the twin, and as they do, the underlying AI becomes progressively more intelligent over time. So kind of interesting.
Wow. I
And
love
what it's
this.
called character GPT. So it enables users to generate fully interactive and intelligent AI characters with a single line prompt in natural
Mm.
language. And users can generate free AI characters on the recently launched AI protocols DApp mycharacter.ai and then mint them as NFTs on Polygon. So it generates both the visuals and the personality. So it's interesting. Um, and I want to go over this real quick. Just some diverse applications. They say that it's limitless what you can do, what you will eventually do. But for now, some of the things that they see this being used for when it goes to as far as creators and consumers, digital twins, AI companions. That's
What does that mean?
interesting. That's very interesting. Wasn't there a
Hmm.
movie about that? I think there was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a couple different
Virtual,
movies about that.
yeah, that's interesting. Virtual influencers,
Oh wow.
uh, TikTok video characters,
Oh boy.
e-commerce, chatbots. Okay,
Chatbots. Yeah.
I can see the chatbots being
Yeah.
one that I would be okay with.
And that's really been out there a while. But maybe this is a new way to do it.
Yeah, maybe taking it to a little bit of a next level because they have been there, but they don't take you very far.
No.
And then as far as for the enterprise, some use cases would be, well, I guess AI companions as well here, virtual celebrities and influencers, e-learning
Oh,
tutors, voice assistants, virtual coaches, um, help desk bots.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
This is
Yeah. I don't know
great.
what
This is great. I saw this article shared and people were asking about it or talking about it, and I hadn't really read it yet. But this is so cool. I'm glad you picked this one as your first one. And now I have an assignment for you. This is your first assignment. If you really want to get into AI, you need to do it. Like I said, this is your next assignment. I want to see the virtual Brianna.
Oh, wow.
We'll
Uh,
see. You don't have to commit to doing it by next week, but yep, you got to dive in, and you have already dove in right now, so you're in.
it's interesting and it's hard because I am very stubborn on, I mean, my biggest thing is that what I appreciate in the world is authenticity, right? Like that's just
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm.
nature. That's my whole thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to like eliminate artificial things around me. So, but that being
Okay.
said,
I get it.
that being I could have easily said that about the internet, right? And
Yeah.
we have the internet, which is amazing. I mean, of course, it can be used for negative things. And I'm telling myself this: keep the open mind, be adaptive, because I could miss out on an opportunity, or, something that I could find a passion with. Of course, there's things that are like very, my mind automatically goes to, wow, with this AI stuff we are going to just take this chaos in our world to a whole nother level, because it is going to go to this disinformation. AI is going to get blamed. We're going to have, I can't remember, it's called like a deep face, I think is what it's called, or deep.
Deep
Have you heard
fake.
of that? Oh,
Deep
deep
fake.
fake. Fake.
Yeah.
We're going to have things being blamed on the deep fake. All these different things. But, that's all going to happen for
It's
those who
just part
still.
of technology marching on, and like yeah, like you said, and I always say it too. It's like there's gonna be bad people, out there in real life, bad people on the internet, bad people in crypto, AI's, the same thing. And you're right, though it can get kind of crazy, but the cat's out of the bag. You can't push it back down. But we should pay attention, just like this whole crypto issue and regulation and everything. A lot of things that we talk about, right? We just got to pay attention and watch it. And unfortunately, a lot of times we don't even know what's going on behind the scenes. So one of the discussions that we're having in our Kings is that a lot of this technology, this AI technology, has been around and it's in the labs being worked on. And so Brian Rose had Ben, I can't remember his last name, but he's the founder and creator of a AI company, Singularity something, and he's good to have on, and he had a lot of information to say. Basically, he's like, yeah, this stuff, Chat GPT, is really not that big a deal, but nobody knew about it, right, until it was released to the public and we could see it and play with it. Then we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And all the AI geeks out there that have been doing this in the labs are like, this is no big deal. And we're like, but why didn't you let us know? Like, and it makes, I guess, from a marketing standpoint, or a jump on board the bandwagon, they didn't get it. The fact, if we need to see stuff, we need to touch it and feel it before we get it. And now that, as simple maybe as ChatGPT might be in terms of what AIs can really do, it's blown everybody away because we'd never really been able to witness it. We've read about it, we've heard about it, we've seen it on sci-fi, but now we get to use it. And so my thought is, oh my gosh, if this is primitive and the stuff they're working on is way advanced already, then wow, when it's going to start rolling fast this year. And so, yeah, I think the AI and crypto have a unique connection. I'm reading a book called Blockchain 365, and there's a chapter I'm reading right now about the confluence of AI onto blockchain and how they're really synergistic together. And I haven't really dove into the details of how that is, but there's a lot of synergies, to that. So they are going to work together. Our Brian Rose is investing heavily in AI companies and looking to invest in AI companies, and so it's an exciting time. The question, right, is what's going to stop the machines from killing off humanity, right? And Ben's response is, and he's a developer of this, and he's like, yeah, it's possible for sure, but the way humans treat other humans in general is really a bad example. And he's like, I think that, if they just look at our behavior and they're able to look at that and take that as the main model, yeah, we wouldn't fare well, once they're smarter than us and stronger than us. But we have the ability to give them the training and give them what they need to, I'm already calling them they, need to learn, right? So we input what they need to learn, right? And so we'll have control over that. And so we'll feed them hopefully the right information. And what Ben was saying is that there's no reason really that they shouldn't look at us like, I don't know, I can't remember the words he used, but just not to be feared or threatened. But in 10 years, so they're saying now 5 years AI will be as smart as humans. In 10 years, they will be much smarter than humans. Smarter, whatever that means, right? Capable, whatever. And that's fast. That means, in my lifetime, I'm going to be in the thick of it. And my kids, of course, are going to be just in the infancy of this, which is, amazing to me. Talking to my parents who are in their 80s, they're like, yep, we're not going to be around for that. And I'm like, I know, it's just so weird, but like, I will be. And I never thought I would, because the Terminator to me was always the most interesting but scariest movie, right? About how the bots and the AI. You've watched Terminators, right? The Terminator.
No,
Oh,
I
come
haven't.
on, man.
If,
We
if I
really
did, I was
need to.
really little. It might have been when I was really little, like on VHS or something. Like, but
No,
I
they
don't.
have new ones. They have new ones that have come out. And
Yeah,
how do you must really get lost when they have all these movie references to like the Terminator, like I'll be back. That's, from the Terminator, from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm not saying I'm great at that either. It's the trivia stuff. But yeah. Well, I think you also need to go on, a heavy binging diet of all these movies because you're into crypto and AI and all of the culture. We've been, there's so many movies about that inform most of us, and maybe that's good for you. Maybe you're just like this, you got this baby fresh mind. You're not clouded by all the movies that I've watched, and maybe you'll just come at it with a nice new perspective. So maybe that is good.
yeah. When I kind of had a lot of my aha moments with crypto and all this new technology, a lot of that was that we are in such the beginning that we have the ability to shape it, right? So that's
Yeah.
like, if we can be active in that, and that's what we have to remember. We can't think that we aren't involved, that we're not involved in this if we don't choose to be. Like we can choose to be a part of that. And so, yeah, trying to be the best that we can be and have the AI, I guess, match what we are giving and projecting. I mean, that's what we would hope for, but it would lead us to greater things. So I guess it'll be a matter of time, and we will all be just fine. I don't think that we're going to get killed off. And yeah, I probably need to go back and watch the movies. And I definitely am going to watch that interview. Is it Sharpie? Is it Ben Sharpiero? Does that sound right? Is that how you say it? Ben Sharp.
That doesn't
Anyway,
sound right, but I
not
don't know.
right. Okay, the guy with the
He's a
longer
crazy
hair.
looking dude, guy with long hair, and he had that funky hat on. Yeah, no,
Good
he
green
talks a
stuff.
lot. He really rambles. I thought it was a lot of rambling, but he
Uh-huh.
he's got, he's right in the forefront of it, and he's doing it. And I think, and he sort of indicated this, but we now maybe we should look at it like this, Brianna. We have the responsibility now. It's like parents. Like we're all parents of the baby AIs now. So we need to start behaving in a manner that we want these AIs to, emulate, right? So we need to clean up and start being nicer and better people to each other because that's one of the things is like if the AIs were to look at like our documentary footage of the wars and all the cruel things that humanity does to each other, and if that's what they learned on, things would not be good. So we need to make sure that we are now providing an example. So maybe that's something good. That
Very
sounds like
good.
a good one for purified people. That sounds like a good topic.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, yep. Digging into AI, I'm going to keep my open mind.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on here. Let me see. Let me share my screen and see what we got today. What do we got today? So it's kind of a crapshoot here. What's this one? All right. So this is I don't know if I want to get into this. I guess I had just a couple points I want to mention on this, and this is the tokenization. So I'm interested in tokenization because it's sort of the mechanics of crypto, and I love studying and understanding more and more about how do you take what does tokenization mean, like how do blockchains even do this, and why is it important? So it's a buzzword as it points out here, but what I have in red here, it says that it's more than just another trendy investment opportunity. It has the potential to unlock assets to investments that have historically been off limits to everyday investors due to costly barriers like minimum purchases. So basically, and this is what threw me a little bit. So you've heard, and I think we've all heard if you've been in crypto a little bit, where NFTs were this new innovation where we could take something in the real world like a piece of art and that was hard to prove ownership of, right? And we could tokenize it and put it up on the blockchain and now prove the owner of it. I just realized that your head is not in here, right? Like, where are you? There you go. All right, now you're in. Now you're on. And so that has also led to the speculation of also being able to tokenize or put on the blockchain other assets like real estate. You hear that a lot, that people can put, that you can prove ownership of real estate by putting that contract on the blockchain, right? And then, of course, other things, like anything that is actually has a contract, has been talked about putting on the blockchain, because now you can prove, and the contract doesn't have to have third-party oversight of all these lawyers and all these people to make sure that people live up to the contract. It's on the blockchain, and in a smart contract, the application of the contract happens, whether you're defaulting or whether you're canceling or who prove, that you own this or whatever. And so apparently these are called security tokens. And I didn't know this because I've heard of security tokens, but it says the way these assets are tokenized is through an instrument called a security token. And so security tokens represent these digital investments that are on the blockchain or the distributed ledger. And they're basically now allow you to trade, although this isn't the main reason you do it, right? You want to do it because you want to prove ownership. But just like NFTs, I think that was one of the main reasons NFTs came along. But then once they're on the blockchain and they're tokenized, you can now trade them. So you can also trade all of these assets that are now tokenized. So you've got real estate contracts and different contracts for whatever. They can be traded. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's inevitable that's going to happen. And so the point I just wanted to bring out here was, if you hear about security tokens, that's what this is. This is about tokenizing other assets that normally aren't in on the blockchain and being able to use it. So I think it's still fairly new, but that's what I wanted to bring up about that. Did you know that, or have you heard of that, or what are your comments on that?
Yeah, I've heard the term security tokens, but kind of like you said, like I didn't put those two together. But I have heard then again of like tokenizing everything and putting it on the blockchain. And then just what comes to my mind is how much easier it's going to be, hopefully,
Totally.
without
Yeah,
all those
hopefully.
elements that you pointed out. Like to be able to take something. I mean, you'd think you would do it with everything. I mean, everything. I know they want to tokenize everything.
Yeah.
Avalanche has said that a lot too. But so let's say that I was going to sell you a car. We just would do that over the blockchain versus going into the DMV, going and getting the title,
Totally.
having it notarized, and all of these things. That might take time to get to that point, but I would be all
I
about.
think it's going to
getting
happen
rid of all
faster. Yeah, I think it's going to happen faster than we think. And my guess is a lot of this stuff is happening behind the scenes. They're testing it and they're making sure, because there's not a lot of talk about it. And this article didn't really go into that, but it is happening now. Apparently, it's just not. You're not hearing a lot about it, and it's probably because it's not perfected yet. But I think that's another thing that's going to come fast. All right, so let's see. Next thing I've got here is a story about DeFi, and so this is interesting because after FTX and the year of 2022, a lot of people thought, "Oh wow," that DeFi was working fine, and that because there was this view that more people now believe DeFi is actually working really good, and that in a lot of the confusion of some of these crypto crashes and so on, there's a lot of talk about DeFi working out fine. So a lot of people speculated that the DeFi coins were going to go up, and a lot of the protocols were going to go up. But what they found was that actually there was a lot of not negativity, but there wasn't very much investment. So the trading volume went down by half, actually, on a lot of these DeFi protocols. And that was surprising to me. And a lot of the tokens aren't doing as well. Now, everything pumped up again in January, but this was, towards the end of the year, or looking at sort of the last half of the year, the DeFi tokens weren't doing as well as they thought. So says it's hard for people to internalize the timing of new markets and just how long that it usually takes for great products to be built on new technology. This was the sentence that had me really thinking about this concept, because one of the issues about DeFi that still scares me is there is a lot of unknown to it because we don't have history. And so being a person that lost money in Luna, I had heard Luna had worked perfectly for 2 years. That USD and that whole mechanism of the algorithmic stablecoin was just running great. And 2 years to me would have been a long enough time to say, oh, things are working great. Man, yeah, this thing's not going to crash ever. And then it did, right? Because 2 years is not very long when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so this is the fear still that people have. And it's a real fear that I have. And it is still why I don't invest a ton of money into my DeFi projects. I'm still in test phase. And for me, it's like, oh yeah, my thought is if I have money in here for a year and things go good, then maybe I'll start to put some more in there. But even 1 year, 2 years, is not that long. So I guess my point here is just for me to continue to be cautious, continue to watch it, closely. And this isn't a place to be to take your eye off the ball. And so that's what this article was really, talking to me about.
You knew I needed to hear that today, didn't you?
Yeah, maybe, because I know you talk about that. And it's just, I don't know, I guess I'll just the same theory applies. Just go slow, use small amounts, and practice. And and I've only been doing it heavily now for about 6 months, and that's nothing. I feel like I know a lot more than what I did, but long-term trends, we just don't have them here. And so, that's the cool thing about Bitcoin. 14 years is pretty long time, and so and we've seen it's never been hacked, it's never been compromised. So I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, for Bitcoin is the deal, it's the real deal. Mm-hmm. And I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, let's see what else I got here today. So some of this is kind of trivial. Let's see. This one is, I think, kind of funny. Ted Cruz. Did you see this article? He wants all vendors to accept Bitcoin at the Capitol.
I have not. I have not seen that.
Well, I think it's really interesting, right? Because how cool is that? There's a picture of good old Ted. And I guess I didn't know that he was that much of a crypto enthusiast, so that's good to know. But the article kind of made fun of it, basically saying, this is that they've got bigger things to worry about, right? They should be worrying about and making good quality legislation rather than even talking about, that you want to be able to go have your donut and be able to pay in Bitcoin, that the senators can pay in Bitcoin at the vendors or whatever. It's just sort of silly, and it kind of just shows how silly I think politics is and how this got a headline. It may be just something he threw off the cuff. I don't know. But it's hilarious. It's like they really need to be worrying about other things. But on the flip side of that, I guess it just, even though really accepting Bitcoin right now, it's not a thing. It's not a stable reality. Can it be done? Yeah. Are there places that accept it? Yeah. But it's not a big thing. Now, maybe if this, were to be another one of those, hey, it can gain momentum. Like, hey, they accept Bitcoin on Capitol Hill. So I guess I'm not saying it would be a bad thing. It just was funny.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that this was released, and I'm sure there was a picture. Depending on where it came from, there may have been a picture painted to make it seem like it was kind of like, oh, there's more to worry about. But Ted, he just came out with. I was actually pretty impressed. I don't usually watch any politics stuff, and I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't know why. But he and Rand Paul and was it Ron Johnson? I think they all were together, and this was a couple days ago, and it was like pretty powerful. Like they had a really good little speech, little hurrah thing, and it was all about like not driving us into the ground in any more debt. So that's one thing that the blockchain provides for us is that transparency. And I think that that's why there's such a hesitation for it to be, because it shouldn't be something that, okay, like you guys use, but we're still gonna like hide behind our walls, and we're not, we're gonna still spend $100,000 or and then $1 million here and $500,000 here on like lizards on a treadmill. That's always kind of their thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why are we spending the $500,000 on a treadmill? If that was visible, and if we were really seeing where this money was going, and I think that that's a good step. Is, here, let's at least, can we buy our donuts like with Bitcoin on Capitol Hill? And that might be a statement as well,
Yeah.
to kind
Maybe.
of just say like, hey, like there's more people who are now saying, and they're not ashamed. Like, the timing is everything when it comes to being somebody who's a political candidate and or just in the media in general, and
Mm.
saying like, okay, yeah, like I see the potential here in Bitcoin. The timing is everything with a lot of those issues. And
True.
so, yeah, I'm glad that that came out for
Yeah.
all those Ted Cruz fans who want to follow suit.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's pretty funny. That's funny. Um, so here's another one that just sort of a quick hit, which I thought was interesting. That Moody's is looking now to give scores to stablecoins, and actually said they're developing a scoring system for up to 20 cryptocurrencies. And so, Moody's is a rating system that has been around forever that rates financial in the traditional financial world stocks and bonds, and they give them a rating, an A rating, a B rating, and so on. And so this would be pretty cool. And the fact is, they're definitely looking at it to create a rating system, and that stablecoins might be their first one. And it makes sense because if we're really going to start to implement stablecoins as either more currency, or if it becomes currencies that people can use to buy things with or whatever. We just talked last week about Circle USDC maybe being the leader in that area. But now we can have a rating system that is pretty well trusted, that will rate these, and maybe they'll rate these different coins. And it kind of makes sense too, because it looks like regulation is going to come in, and pretty much everything other than Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, are going to be considered equities and will be held just like stocks are in the stock market, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, although it will slow down innovation, because now everybody and their brother can't throw up a crypto protocol. But that's another, just to kind of go back to DeFi, it's another area that I'm concerned at. I'm bothered by that. It's a good and it's a bad, right? Open source software and the open source nature of cryptocurrencies allows for massive innovation, because anybody can take the code and either make a copy of it and then innovate and tweak this and tweak that and come up with new wonderful things. A lot of great crypto and DeFi protocols have been created that way. The problem with that is, again, what is the standard? What are the auditing standards? How can I trust any Tom, Dick, and Harry to grab some code, throw it up there, hire a great marketing team to make it sound like the best investment in the world? We all put our money in there, and boom, because it's not been vetted, the code is lousy, it hadn't been audited, it crashes. So this is just all things that I'm thinking about in crypto, and still being a huge supporter of crypto. I don't want to have my head in the sand about the realities of it, and so I just want to talk about that. And really, it's again, I always say this show, we want to be and we are optimistic about crypto, but we also need to be aware and talk about some of the issues, and so that's what I hope to bring up with something like this. So I think this would be good if I can trust a rating system to help me. And this is what we have in the traditional finance. And so if we want more people to come into crypto, these are the kind of things that are going to have to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And it will be such a relief, I think, at some point, and it will come when we don't have to worry, about, is my money safe in a stable coin?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that would come when we don't have to have that hovering over us, because it just will be, right? If it's so, yeah, no, I agree. There's going to be a lot of benefits when those regulations come in.
We just have to
And
watch
like,
them. We
yeah,
just have to
yeah,
make sure that it's not an overreach. That's the only thing. And really, we shouldn't. And I don't think the reality of life is to ignore regulation or to say there should be no regulation. I and there still are maxis in the crypto space, but I think everybody, after living through what happened, even the hardest, staunchest libertarians that want no control over anything would have to agree that there needs to be some oversight so that the stuff that SBF did can't happen again. And we just can't have this. The industry can't have much more of this kind of these large scale frauds. And so we kind of want some sort of oversight, but we need to just watch it so they don't slip any of this side stuff in there in some of these bills, which happens all the time.
For sure.
As we know.
Yeah, they'll have to be diligent. And whatever happens right off the bat, it can, those regulations will continue to evolve,
Yeah.
And so those are ways that we can also, that all comes down to who's elected and all of those things. So it just takes a lot of due diligence in many sectors.
And I think what's so cool about this, and I, we've talked about this, and I think you're in the same boat that I am, which is until crypto came along, I didn't pay that much attention, to the nitty gritty of finance. I come from a banking family, so it just was around me. So I probably was more educated than the average person. And I had, a 401k and an IRA, and but I had a financial advisor do the nitty gritty, parts of that. And like I said, I didn't care about like what the Fed was doing or whatever. But because I now have fallen in love with crypto, and for me, it's much more than an investment, but it is the investment side, to be honest, that's the exciting driving part of it, right? I just know that there's a lot more to it. And it allowed me to pay more attention to financial issues and to what the Fed's doing, what the economy's doing. And then politics too, just to round out that conversation. It's that, I despise politics in lots of ways. But there's just no getting around it, right? And so I don't like to spend a lot of time on the minutia and about all the crazy stuff on the news. But on the things that I care about and that we care about, we do need to pay attention. And again, I don't know what that's going to look like, but there are things that I care about that I guess I'm going to have to at some point maybe wade into the thick of the politics and whatever, because I care about it. And unfortunately, that's how our society works, so, but for me, because I really despise it and I don't want to think about it or get involved in it, but I know the realities of life and we have to deal with it, I'm just going to pick and choose, of what I get into there. So right now, this will be one area, in crypto, whatever. And it's a big issue. And so I pay attention to it, not because I love it, politics, but because I don't want to see, and this is the issue of politics, because it's like, I have an agenda. My agenda is to promote crypto as a whole in a safe manner for everybody. I think it's a force for good. I really do, in the world. And although they're growing pains when we're having them, it's a force for good, and I want to push that good out to as many people, that can see it. But there's going to be, political issues, and I'm going to look at my agenda and weigh in on the government officials that support my agenda. But that's the crux of why I hate politics, right? Because that's what everyone's doing, and I get it. But if you're a congressman or a senator or a president, you got to get elected to do anything, right? But to get elected, you sell your soul. Mm-hmm. You do underhanded things. You say one thing and then completely flip-flop because you think that's going to get you elected. And that's what I despise about politics. And yet I understand it. And I have my own agenda, so it's just one of those catch-22s. I'm not condemning the left or the right or anything in the middle. And, to be frank, I still think that America style is the best system out there. I don't think there's any better systems, but I still bitch and moan about it. So,
yeah. It's best stay zoomed out with those things. It's so easy to get. Well, I mean, once you see, it just is. It's like, how many times we're gonna have to just tell ourselves we know it's just like what it is. But kind of seeing what's happening without getting submerged into the
Absolutely.
politics. Yeah, not
Absolutely.
much we can do. Not much we can do.
Yep. So here's a last article. Again, just kind of a brief little. I saw this headline. I'm like, okay, Robinhood rolls out its MetaMask wallet competitor. What do you think I'm going to say about this?
Robinhood rolls out its MetaMask wallet competitor to 1 million users.
Okay, well, what do you think about it? Before I make my comment, what do you think about it?
I think that they are going to try to hate on MetaMask for becoming centralized.
Oh, that's okay. That wasn't. I agree with that
That was
potentially.
the
That
first thing
wasn't
that came to my head.
okay. I mean, that's good. And again, the details of this article aren't that important to me. It's just the issue of this of Robinhood. So I'm a big MetaMask user. I'm a big MetaMask fan, but I'm a big Ethereum fan. But Ethereum has a ton of centralized vectors, as some people call it. MetaMask has a lot of control, which would be a centralized vector, in that language. But it's still overall the best, in my opinion, decentralized self custody wallet out there. Now, so on the surface of it, if there's a new competitor coming out, I should like that, and maybe I will. But here's my issue: I'm not a fan of app only applications. App as in phone applications. I'm not ancient dinosaur, and deny that people trade crypto on their phones. I just don't think it's that smart. And so when I see Robinhood or any of these other Cash, I'm thinking Cash App. So yeah, Robinhood, Cash App, even PayPal. There's a lot more of them out there that are really only work on their phone. That's the way most people use them. And in the beginning, a lot of these apps shielded the complexity of crypto. And you would think that would be a good thing. But what I find, and it's sort of my pet peeve, is that by shielding the complexities, you have people that don't get it, they don't understand it. And when you've got a market as volatile and as potentially risky as crypto is, I think it's a bad thing because people get burned. They don't know what happened. They don't know what's going on. They just have this stupid little app that, it looks like a video game to them, and they get burned. And whose fault is that? I don't know. Is it buyer beware? Is it these companies that know that there's a market for this and they can capitalize on it? So, I'm all for free market, capitalization or whatever, but I'm not a fan of Robinhood because it dumbs down, cryptos. I think everyone that invests in crypto should at least know how to do a MetaMask wallet on their browser and on their computer, set it up on your computer, putting your key phrases and your seed phrases and making them secure as possible and write them down and all the stuff that I teach and that most responsible crypto people talk about. And then if you know that and you want to use your MetaMask wallet on your mobile phone, which you can, in emergencies or whatever, then fine. But don't come whining to me when you've lost money on one of these apps and you didn't know what the hell was going on. That's my rant.
I agree fully. One of the best lessons that I've ever learned and that was actually from Brian Rose, was to not trade from your phone.
Yeah.
And not invest from your phone. And that's all that I used to do. And it takes a level of depth away. It's easier to do something on an impulse. And like you said, it's like a game. Like it's not, you don't even feel as in control. Because I feel like there's this level when you're on your phone that puts you automatically into this unconscious state.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that's taking your attention. It's navigating your way. You're getting caught up on things. On your computer, you're a little bit more in control. You're going exactly where you need to go. I can't even imagine using the DeFi protocol on my phone and going through those swaps.
I can't either.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to do. But we have exactly. It's that market that they're going to tap into. The generations, the younger generations will probably not even hardly know what a computer is, you
Yeah,
know?
and
So,
really,
it,
I don't really care at that much. What I care about is people getting burned, and Robinhood isn't going to, they've gotten their contract. I mean, they're covered. It's not like you can blame Robinhood for this, and yet people are going to get burned because Robinhood makes it easy. And if this was a fully regulated system, or it wasn't, maybe for traditional finance, it's fine because there's a lot more backdrops and a lot more ways not to get burned. But in crypto, it's just a unique situation, and just don't do it. Don't do it, people. Spread the news. Use your
well,
MetaMask wallet on your computer to trade and do crypto.
yeah, I like MetaMask as well. I really do like MetaMask, and I will say I just it keeps popping up for some reason into different articles that how we will be using our smartphones. That's the goal. Is our smartphones will be what we use for all of our transactions. So that's another thing when that just popped into my head with Robinhood, and why that would be a wise business move on their end. Because if we don't we're emptying our computers. If we are truly using crypto for payments in the future, then that might be a really genius move to just have it right on your phone.
Yeah, and the thing is that if crypto gets to the point where crypto becomes a payment system, which it will, I'm thinking it this year, and let's say Bitcoin, on the Lightning Network, right? If you're just using your phone, like Venmo, and you're just buying, or like your MasterCard, connect to your phone, your Apple Pay or whatever, and you just pop your phone down, you're paying for something. You don't need to know the details of it, because there are third parties invested in making sure everything happens good. And that's how our system works. This is actually a really interesting concept to kind of maybe end on, but it's a teaching lesson that I think we all should pay attention to. And that is that, traditional finance, it's set up the way it's set up because of the nature of humans and how we've evolved, because we don't trust each other, and there was no mechanism to actually trade or store money or give money, unless you have these third parties that had power to control the populace so that we could have a banking system, right? And so you had to have all these controls in place. And so our current traditional financial system was built on that, and everything, and there's layers and layers now of technology that's been built into this too, that the foundation is not set up for trustless transactions. And so blockchain still sits on top of the internet, which sits on top of all sorts of other types of infrastructure. And this is the beauty of blockchain. And that is, it is providing a layer of protection now and security that we're layering on top of the internet. That through blockchain, we can now start to smooth this out. Because the internet should have had this built into it, but it just didn't flow that way, right? I'm kind of getting into my techie side, but I just updated my LinkedIn profile, and I'm a telecommunication engineer. I'm a former engineer that built telecommunication systems, and it's funny because I've kind of pushed that away from my life, but now that I'm kind of promoting myself as a crypto enthusiast, I'm bringing that back out because I understand how these networks were created and built. I was an engineer of them, and the transmission protocol that was built in the internet is not secure at all. It was meant for speed and convenience, and that's what took over. And so we're now having to catch up and to put in this fundamental security structure into the internet. And that's what blockchain is. I mean, it's a lot more detailed, but I'm actually relearning and rereading about some of this stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I used to do for a living. And as what happened, you look at Facebook and Google, and if you look at all of the hacks, the fraud, and how big a deal this is, because now talk about politics, you've got governments that may be not waging war physically, but will be waging war electronically through hacking. We've already seen it, the Russians and the Chinese. And it's because of the way the internet was built that allows that to even happen. So as blockchain becomes and proliferates, the whole of the internet, and that more and more things move on to the blockchain, it's adding that security layer that should have been there in the first place. And so in this book I'm reading, it said something that 90% of all hacks, what if blockchain was embedded, or when it gets to be embedded in pretty much everything, will go away. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll see. And I do think that blockchain will evolve into something even more. But the problem is we've so have you seen Star Wars?
I've seen Star Wars. I have seen Star Wars.
All right. Okay, so I'm sorry to keep going back to these movie scenarios, but in the newer Star Wars, in the newer ones, they have these scenes of this big city called Coruscant, and it's like the center capital of the Star Wars universe, or whatever. And it's got these cars like are flying, right? And it's got these highways and layers of highways of all these flying cars and all these buildings. And what you can see is that after millions of years of society, they keep building towns and cities on top of other towns and cities, and just these layers. And so in the bottom of these layers are all, where the riffraff go, and all the, really the homeless, and people are at the bottom levels of these ancient civilizations that were built millennia ago, and now you have this sparkly gleaming cities on the top, right? This is how I view the internet. And what's happening. The basic of the internet was just kludged together. It was patched together with all these computer parts and servers all over the world, and it really is a kludge. And so we're now taking blockchain, which is this concept of value transfer, moving value, money, currency, Bitcoin, from one person to the other person over this antiquated internet architecture. So blockchain will be this first level of laying this layer of security. But also it does so much more, because now that we have this, we can trust this. We don't need all these third parties, millions and trillions of dollars of third party invention or intervention, because of the unsecurity of the internet. So this is, I'm kind of into this because I'm reading about this. I'm studying this because it's going to be part of my new book, The Case for Crypto, is to talk about, really Bitcoin is wonderful, but it's really blockchain that's going to change the world. And what's interesting, and I'm struggling with how to define this, but blockchain technology had been around it's been around since the 50s or whatever. But it took Satoshi Nakamoto to take the blockchain concepts and math and science and a bunch of these technologies and put them together to create the Bitcoin network. And so a lot of times we're using the word blockchain or Bitcoin, and I'm trying to define, like, it's this unique thing. Blockchain had been around before, but what came out of Bitcoin was a very specific blockchain that was new to anything before, and actually everything after. So after Bitcoin network, then you had Cardano, and you had all these different Avalanche and different layer one blockchains that looked at Bitcoin and said, oh, this is cool, but let's make a different one, right? A different layer one. And so the industry's evolved to, like, okay, now these new layer one technologies, these blockchains that are going to lay on top of the internet, are going to provide these different values. And so let's say Avalanche may do something that Cardano might, do differently, and Bitcoin is doing differently. But it all started with Bitcoin. It all started with Satoshi Nakamoto taking these different technologies, and we call this blockchain, but it's unique in a way. What Bitcoin does is unique to what Avalanche does and Ethereum does and everything. So sorry to dive into a lesson there, but I think it's fascinating, and it really is the crux of all the stuff we're talking about. It's really, I want to get my head around and then educate other people, all this crazy stuff, NFTs, metaverse, all these crazy things are only available because of the base underlying stuff. And so for me, it's really interesting to understand that base layer stuff. And the more that I understand it, the more I'll understand these new applications that are being all layered on top of the blockchain, and then under that is the internet. So I don't know if you find that interesting or not. I maybe just put a lot of people to sleep, but that's what I'm studying, and as I'm writing this book, and it is fascinating. So you'll probably hear a few more rants about this a little bit as we go on, because it's in my focus right now. So
yeah, no, it is fascinating, and it's great to hear it from somebody who's been a part of building, internet in the past, to kind of lay that out there, because it's something that we, like the typical person, doesn't know. And people are just so quick to like, nope, don't like that. Yep, like this, without acknowledging, how fascinating something may have been to create and to build. So I like that you're bringing that to light and pointing out kind of the intricacies of all of it, because it is fascinating. The fact that we can do what we're doing right now is fascinating.
It really
And
is,
I've been
it
checking
sits.
myself, with AI about that. Like, hey, like
Yeah,
look at this. It's just because it has the word artificial in it. I don't like that. Like, just get
yeah.
past that, see what it's all about, and it's pretty amazing what people create, right? So no, I think that's really interesting. And what also popped in my head when you were talking about hacks is this has all come around just in time for AI hackers. We'll see if that becomes a
Yeah.
thing.
It will. It will become a thing for sure, and yeah, we'll have to stay on that, for sure. But what's got me thinking, Brianna, is this is an interesting topic. I think for you and like for purified people, you said something early on the broadcast today that really kind of stuck with me, and that is authenticity. And I agree. That's a big focus of me in my life, and I've had to learn the hard way. But being as authentic as I can as an individual, and yet you see these things like these avatars and this 3D world, which is this representation, and is that authentic or not, or whatever. So what I was thinking is what an interesting project for you, or something to look into, is okay, as this new AI comes on board, 3D avatars, the metaverse, how can we be as authentic as possible as we all emerge into this new technology environment, but not lose our authenticity? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Kind of, maybe these avatars, if you have your twin, you're going to be able to see yourself a little bit from a different angle. I mean, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
that twin it's going to lack many things. Um,
Yeah.
and it can't duplicate us. There's just no way it's never going to duplicate us. Um, and I lost my train of thought there, but
Well, the
yeah,
authenticity, and that's as the AIs, they're going to be as smart as us in 5 years, but they won't be us. They can't replace us. They're never, whatever it is going to be, right? When they say it's as smart as us or as complex as us or whatever, I don't know what that means, what it's going to do, but they will never be us. But that's a fear, I think, out there. So as this may be, I'm just like, okay, I've got a new niche for you. This is kind of right up your alley, I think, because it really is taking this technology, like, crypto, like what I was always fascinated about how you're able to do is take crypto, the concepts, and then relate them back to us individuals and sort of personal growth and connect the two together. And AI is just another version of that concept.
hmm Yes, absolutely. Yep. I have something I've been working on that's an integrated thing when it comes to that, with personal development, self mastery, and that's new technology. Um, and so that's something that I have a vision for sure. I have a passion for that for sure. I think that, we know this is coming. Like you kind of said, you either at this point, you can ignore it completely, not be a part of it. You can help guide it, or you can be just totally bulldozed by it. And that will happen to a lot of people who are
Yeah.
kind of living in their unconscious state. The psychology of people might get a little, who already are by the internet, who already are by social media, will get just completely bulldozed. But
Yeah.
that's all their own thing to be able to get through. But yeah, if you're choosing to move with intention through this, then it can be shaped into something great, and great things will come of it. So, yeah, definitely something that
Love
I'm
it.
keeping my eyes
Love it.
on.
All right. So that's your, well, it could be at least a chapter in your book. So what's your working book title?
Oh, I don't have it totally solidified right now. And
No,
I'm
no, it doesn't have to be solidified. Come on, I'm putting you on the spot. What is a title? You had to have thought of a title, haven't you?
I have multiple ones down, but I'm not ready to release it.
Oh, okay,
I'm
folks.
not
She's
ready
not
to
ready.
because
I am. I'm waiting for
uh,
her book to come out. I'm
I will
anxious.
tell you, and I will let you know. And I actually, I have. It's so funny because I go through this one, and it's like I'm putting in all this work, and you've written books before, Scott, so you know how this goes, and you're like, you can get pulled. You're like, oh, now I'm over here, now I'm over here, and I'm like, okay, I'm already on book number 2 in my mind, and that one's gonna be better,
I know. I know.
like have this. So I have like I'm going like multiple ones. Like, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to put this one over here in this book, this one over here. So yeah, that's definitely an art in itself, is writing a book, man.
Well, and that's
But
it. That's the thing about it, is that I think a lot of people have books in them, and a lot of people uh, technically could definitely write books, but it is something because of this issue. And, it's either overwhelm or procrastination or what all this stuff is. And so when you finally do it, there is a little bit of, respect there, because, and I get all the time, like, oh my God, you've written these books and stuff. And it's like, after you do it a little bit, you're like, okay, wasn't that big of a deal. But it is, because everybody wants to write a book, but you got to do it. And, and so that's good. But I always encourage people, yeah, just keep with it. You'll get these spurts, and one day or whatever, you'll have this spurt, and the momentum will be there, and you'll do it, and you'll finish it out. So I totally get it. Yeah, my next thing. So my thing now, I'm struggling even this week, is I've always, and I think I mentioned this before, is that I love documentaries, and I want to create one, and I'm a photographer and a videographer, but a documentary film is a whole nother level. I create nice little videos, and I can edit them and do stuff, but a documentary. So today, I've been one of my New Year's resolutions is not to buy so many courses, and I've been better. I've got the price down. So if it's over $500, I'm like, no. But I found two that I bought in the last week that are under 500. One is how to write a really good newsletter that can put your message out there.
that's a good one.
Yeah, so I'm creating a newsletter that will inform the videos that I want to put on my YouTube channel, but I like to write. So I thought, let me just get a really popular, good newsletter, because that's the way I absorb most of my crypto news, is through newsletters, that aggregate or do whatever. So I'm like, okay. And then the other one, which has been a passion of mine forever, is creating a documentary. And so I hopped on a call. It's funny. I got this email, and I've been following this company for a while, taking some of their classes. It's called Desktop Documentaries, about how to create documentaries. And they came out with an email that said, hey, there's this new script writing course that you can get for like $250. And by the way, today they're having their open forum Q&A class. So if you buy the course, you can get on the call. And I'm like, that's me. And literally did that. I paid for the course, got into the course, hopped on to a Q&A call. And I asked him that question, the guy, and it was brilliant. It was fun. It was all these documentary filmmakers, some that have never made some that have made a bunch of them. And I said, look, I'm struggling with this question of, should I write the book first, or should I create the documentary first, or both? And he didn't have a great answer, but of course, being a documentary guy, he says, they're two different things. A documentary is a story about a person. You're following a character through the life of something, and through that you can tell a story and even make a point. Books are really about, putting all the information out there. And yeah, you can tell stories and you can follow through characters, but you don't have to. You can just put information out there. And so a documentary would be much more work, at least, but I'm in that same thing. People think that writing a book is a lot. I think creating a documentary would be a lot too. But he's like, yeah, create the documentary, and that will inform what you maybe want to put in the book. So now my thought is, okay, let's see. I'm going to switch now my brain to this other side about finding characters that I could film and then tell the story. But overall, my goal is to get the word out to as many people as I can that crypto is a force for good. And it comes in many, many ways. And it's much more than an investment in a coin. And, so that's just my working statement. I think you probably have this working statement you work from, and then you just build from that. And so anyways, that's on my mind today. And so we'll see where that goes. But it comes down to that.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun doing a documentary. And that's kind of where I had my time. I have a course addiction as well. And that's what happened with mine is I was almost like, I had it all down. I knew exactly what I was going to write down. I was writing every day. And then I got into the course, and then it took me away and started compartmentalizing me into what they were doing and their master classes. And then I was like, what do I need? And it totally threw me off. So I had to set the course aside and just keep writing and writing. And now I'm back on track again, and I'm writing and writing. And then I'll go through the course and kind of fine tune if I need to. And there's definitely valuable points I'm going to need from that.
Well, the course informs you. It's like what I find is, having done just what you said multiple times, is that, yeah, courses take you down, or even books take you down a path, right? Because that's their path or whatever, and it may deviate a little bit from what you originally thought or not, but it's still good. Unfortunately, in my case, you get deviated, you go down their path, and hopefully, finish the course, and then you're like, okay, now how can I integrate that into what I'm doing or whatever. Unfortunately, I found that takes a long time, like years, like because sometimes these courses and you follow this path, it may be 6 months to a year, like you're focusing on this, and then you come back like, oh, well, that part I didn't really like, but I like this part, and then you integrate it into your thing. And for me, that's sometimes takes a year or more, but it's always good. It's always good. It's like I never regret taking any of these courses or doing, even though I may not follow that. It informed now how I'm going to shape the future of what I'm creating. And so even though probably I've got too many influences, but I just love that anyway. So for me, I can never get really too much. Unfortunately, it does lengthen the time of everything. And that has been my frustration. It's like, okay, I need to get something published. I need to get something out there, and even yet I have published 2 books. And yet I am still frustrated with that. And so it's always a sort of a constant creator's dilemma, I think. But I wouldn't want it any other way. So it's all good. Mm-hmm. Anyways, like always, we could just ramble. Like a lot of this is just, Brianna and I just talking on stuff we love. So hopefully you guys find it semi interesting. If not, you've gone and left long ago.
So come back next week because we're here live every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And join us live. And as Scott always says, tell us what you want to talk about so that we can kind of do some investigating and bring it forth.
We'd love
and
to
be active in the chats so that we can hear what you have to say. So join us every Friday. We'd love to have you.
Love to have you. All right. With that said, see you guys. We'll sign out here. And let me see. I don't know. I feel like I need to leave something. I guess just the tagline I like was go in there and live the decentralized life. Leave it at that. Bye.